What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Billy Collins.
MATJ.
And this is Magician
And the Jock.
We are back. A little hiatus.
Summertime.
We do have some more guests coming up.
Mr. Patrick Keneally will be on the show. We filmed the first half of it, talking about a tight schedule.
Yeah.
Owner of Chick-fil-A.
He is remarkable.
And I said, dude, why don't we just record on Sunday? He's like, oh, no. I guard that day. We did an episode, been a couple months now, because we are Magician and the Jock.
Right.
A lot of people know my Jock backstory through football. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I guess they know you're the Magician, but probably more people recently have seen
Probably
at the
Magician
gym,
by
proxy.
elimination.
Yeah, and also I'm the Jock by.
Yeah. So it kind of leaves.
I'm not exactly playing any sports right now. You know, we did that episode where I went through what it was like in the locker room, you know, getting drafted, all that stuff. I was thinking you are an expert in wizardry.
Yeah, I would like to. I don't know if I've done it for a long time, so I've seen a lot.
But you're a student of it too.
I am. Kind of backed off magic a little bit because my time is limited, and
then there was COVID, so there wasn't many live shows.
Right, I had 16 shows canceled on me.
Yeah.
But it's always been a passion.
What was the first magic trick you ever saw?
I think the very first magic trick I saw was a guy named Doug Henning. He used to have a show on, I guess as every year he would come on NBC. Mm-hmm. And I think I was 5, 6 years old. And he was flying on a carpet.
No.
It was a magic carpet, and he just, out of nowhere, just started levitating. I didn't. I was 5. I thought that was cool stuff. Time progressed, moved on. David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear, walked to the Great Wall of China. And that really kind of sparked the whole interest of magic for me.
Most kids would see that and just be like, wow. But did you think maybe, hey, I'd like to learn how to do something?
Yeah, it was more like I was curious about how he did it to learn it, not as much as, wow, that's...
You got to figure out where that Statue of Liberty went.
How did that even work?
But in terms of being able to captivate an audience, or
he had the world watching mentality, and I've always, and plus on top of that, no one had done that. It was very creative. Mm-hmm. We're creative people. We love watching people that are creative, and we kind of want to show the world our creativity. David Copperfield, all magicians are the same thing. With that being said, you do have magicians that will copy other magicians, and I say more emulate than steal. I'm not going to call anybody thieves about magic, but there are people that will do that.
And there are certain tricks that I've seen a bunch of different people do, but they do their own little spin on it.
In magic, you can make something disappear, appear, a card trick, levitate, or read minds. It's all in the packaging of the trick. Like if I do pick a card, I'm not just going to say pick a card, okay, yours is 3 of hearts. I'm going to put something to it.
Put some window dressing on it.
Yeah. Right, yeah, so I'll say, okay, I want you to imagine that you see that I have my screen printed shirt here, and you know how a card is rectangle. In that rectangle, you're going to see the 3 of hearts. And I'll subtly throw it in there, and they'll be like, wait, what? For me, that magic is when it hits, that wow moment hits them. To me, that's gangbusters.
Yeah, and you know ahead of time it's going to work, so you can take your time to get to the punchline. Yeah, it's similar to telling a joke, a story. You got to provide context, yada yada. That's all weaving to a punchline or something. Usually the audience thinks it's going this way, and then it veers that way. I've seen magicians set up tricks where they give you like a false sense of confidence, like, oh, I know how he's going to do this. He's an amateur or whatever, and then it's like, look, it's in my mouth. And they're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, now I do get those. You'll get the skeptics, is I think what you're talking about. It's like, whatever. And then that is what happens when you're in the game for a long time. Because when you're younger, you're rushing, you're worried about flashing or people seeing your trick or stuff. When you get older, you're like, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, once you get into that mindset of...
Once you learn Santa Claus isn't real, you're like,
hey.
What? But he sees you when you're sleeping. It would be kind of creepy if it was real.
I know, right?
I know why Santa Claus is always smiling.
No.
He knows where all the naughty girls live.
But,
so when you're young...
You try to rush through it. You know, you can tell a new magician because the new magicians, all the magic happens here. Like, you ever seen a kid shuffle the cards for the first time? They're all like, you're trying to hold it with their body and stuff. Same thing with magic. Is like a new magician is like here, where like a more seasoned magician, someone who's been through the rigors and has done a trick a billion times,
Right.
will be like, pick a card.
Yeah.
And if I get busted, who cares? Tomorrow they're going to forget about that. You're going to forget about that. No one cares.
How often, if you do 10 tricks, is it 1 out of 10 where someone knows, or do you know that somebody knows how you did it? They didn't reveal it though because they're not a jerk, or?
Depends on the venue. If it's a stage show, most likely people don't know because it's something
They're
that...
coming there to be wild.
Yeah, it's something... Yeah, they've paid a ticket to see it, and they want to learn, or they want to see the magic and be amazed. And I tell people that when you come to my show, or if you see magic, it's a way for even an adult to escape the life for a little while and revert back to a kid mentality, where you just relax, enjoy it.
The same way I went and saw Thor the other night. You suspend belief or disbelief for that hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, where I'm immersed in some made-up world.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's similar.
It's the same thing. And people, I get it. People are inquisitive and want to learn or want to try to figure it out. So like a puzzle. It's great. It bothers me when I have kids and then you have an adult like, oh, it's... Okay, don't ruin it for them.
Right.
If you know how the trick is done, shut your mouth.
Yeah, that guy sounds like he'd be great at parties.
Yeah, and I've had that happen at a show where I would have a guy like try to heckle or...
Really?
Yeah, and I'd be like, I tell you what, guys, we got a guest performer today. I was like, sir, can you come on up to the stage? We'll let you perform. He'd be like, no, man. Just shuts the rest of the time up.
Yeah.
You're there, you pay for the performer, enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a person that's singing, a person that's doing magic or juggling or whatever the case may be at play. Just enjoy it. It irks me, and I guess it's the artistic side of me. I see the efforts people put into, even if I don't enjoy a play or whatever, a movie, there's a certain amount of effort that goes into that you got to respect. Same thing with a magician. Me and Brian talk all the time about creating tricks, coming up. We bounce ideas off one another. We practice. We study. We're the students of the game. So when you put in all those hours into it, you want people to kind of respect it.
It's just annoying. All right, so that's the negative side, but that's going to be true performing, entertaining.
Yeah, anything.
Teachers have to deal with an annoying student in the back of the class, What was the first trick you learned?
There's a card box, and you put the card in, and then you say, I'm going to make the card disappear, and then you open it up and the card's gone. And that was the first, and it's a $2 trick you get. I learned that from... So in South Carolina, that's when I really got into it. I lived a little south of Myrtle Beach, and Myrtle Beach had one of the big magic rings, but they also had a really good magic shop, Conley's House of Magic. Ron Conley was the owner of it. And I saw this card trick, and I wanted to do it. And he said, why don't we start small?
Right.
I don't know if he was
just...
just...
saw out and
He cut
the assistant in half.
And now looking back, I'm like, well, did he just want me to keep coming back for business sense, or he really wanted to teach? And now knowing Ron is because he really wanted to teach the magic. He wanted it to move forward.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the first thing I think I've learned. And then I saw the cups and balls, which we have a picture. It's my favorite trick of all time.
Yeah.
And I saw that being performed, and to have a ball that was visually there to now move to another spot without any trapdoors or anything, it baffled me.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those, I had to learn it and do it. And I don't do it anymore because I don't do the small street performances or anything.
You have to have a table set up. I mean, if you're doing walk around magic.
Right. Walk around is like you got cards, you got a pen, you got whatever with you, coins. But for something like that, you really can't do, even though it is my favorite trick to do.
How many times did you work on that first trick before you showed it? Or if when you're young, are you kind of overly confident?
You're overzealous.
Come check this out.
I think I opened the package and I put the card in, literally went like this, put the card in, you close the box, and then you flip the box open. There's a little black door that falls down. My dad opens up, my dad goes, wow, that's awesome.
My son's gonna die a virgin. Great.
Trying to be sympathetic, but also being like, oh, how do I... You ever seen a baseball, son?
He thought it, yes. I think it's kind of the worst part about rollerblading is telling your parents you're gay. It's kind of saying the worst part about being a magician. But it's very mainstream now. A lot of magicians are very funny. They keep it light. They realize, look, I'm a grown man pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Like, I get, like, Piff, the magic dragon, Penn and Teller are very funny.
You have the Justin Wellmans of the world that are hilarious. Those guys have taken it to a new level of sarcasm with magic, but still, even though they look like
they're tight on they're very serious about their magic.
Yeah, the magic is the catalyst that sets everything.
A good joke's not going to save a terrible trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if you go to Vegas, if anyone goes to Vegas, go to the Four Queens, a good magician, great guy, funny, and he's a phenomenal magician, actually. Mike Hammer, you got to see this shit. To me, and I've seen Chris Angel, and I've seen David Copperfield, which great shows out there, but Mike Hammer's show is so interactive, and it's funny, he's engaging, and he's sarcastic, but he's also endearing. Those guys have really launched it to a new level for me, and that's why, if you ever watch Brian perform, he's in that same mold too. He's very funny, witty, sarcastic.
You got to like listen close, because I remember he's like, "Will you sign this card?" And he handed me a pen. He's like, "Be careful, that's sharp," because it was sharp. Like magicians have dominated dad jokes. It's just dad joke after dad joke. Yeah. But it's very
it's
funny.
like when I do the sponge balls. Like, I'll go up to a kid and I see the parents with them. I'll say, "Can I do a magic trick for them?" Blah blah blah. I'll say, "Hey, I want you to take this little red ball. I want you to examine the ball closely. Make sure there's no trapdoors, no hidden pockets.
Yeah.
Just a normal ball that a weird middle-aged man's carrying around in his pocket for no odd reason." Kids don't get it. Parents love it.
It's almost like the movie Toy Story, where there's little innuendos in there.
And that's
as an adult, you're like, "Oh," and your kid's just like, "Look."
And that's probably one of the best compliments my ex-wife gave me in magic, is that she said, "You're like the DreamWorks, Shrek, Pixar type of magic. It's for the kids if you do a kid show, but there's innuendos for the parents that..."
You tell jokes that the kids are gonna, about 10 years, they're gonna be like, "Oh, he is a dirty old man." God.
And it's funny because, like, the same trick, the sponge balls, you can, depending on the crowd, and the later it gets when I'm doing walk around magic, the pattern changes.
Yeah.
I'll say, can you examine these balls? Don't squeeze them too hard. If you squeeze them hard, I go blind. It's like,
yeah.
So, and it adds a little flavor to it. And
do you recognize, okay, these people, they're especially doing walk around at Amos, they're there to eat, right? And then here's some guy walking around doing magic. So you realize there's that initial kind of awkwardness at the beginning.
Yeah. The difference with Amos, where I do walk around magic, is Brian and I have been there so long. It's almost, they've come to hey, where's the magician?
It's part of it.
It's almost part of the mystique of the place. It's like, oh, they got magicians.
Versus like walking around the beach, like saying, "Hey, excuse me," as you lay out, "Can I bother you and put you
I put this
the World Wide Webs?
Can you put this in your pocket? You don't have a pocket? Improvise."
That's right. Yeah. Magicians have been kind of a mainstay in entertainment for a long time. Who are the guys with the tigers?
Siegfried and Roy.
Siegfried and Roy. You mentioned Chris Angel, David Blaine, David Copperfield, Penn and Teller. For someone that's not like a huge magic fan or whatever, I can name off a lot of them. It reminds me, I went to a Metallica show one time in San Diego. And I'm like, "Yeah, I like Metallica, check it out." And I knew like 30 of their songs. I didn't realize how many of their songs I knew.
Right, yeah.
Magic's kind of always been there.
Yeah, it's one of those, I won't say they don't take it for granted, they just don't take it serious. I think it's like, "Oh, a magician, yeah." It's because your grandfather used to say, "Hey, I'm going to show you a card trick," and do that. I'm going to count out 34 cards, and you bullshit, and you're like, "God, Jesus Christ, Grandpa, hurry up." But, in the same sense, you say, "Hey, I'm a magician. Would you like to see a trick?" I rarely get people say, "No."
Yeah.
During COVID, I did. For the most part, no. They're like, "Yeah, I want to see some magic." I'll go up to a kid that's crying. I'm like, "Hey, guys, would you like to see a magic?" And they instantly stop.
Yeah.
And they're like, so there's something to that where you're giving them an experience and they feel better afterwards. Then again, like I said, that comes with longevity as well, like reading people and who to go up to, who not to go up to. If someone's playing cornhole out there, don't say, "Hey guys, stop, let's do a magic trick."
"In this coffin is my lovely..." Oh, there's a beanbag. Yeah. But so for a while, what was your first paid gig? Do you remember? Were you in college or?
I actually didn't start doing any paid gigs until about 15 years ago. I would do it in college. I would do a trick or two just so I could pick up girls.
Yeah.
Like I had this one, and then there's magicians that know it's an ambitious card, and then I would say, hey, look, if I write your phone number on here, if I wow you, I can call you.
You get to keep it.
Yeah.
Call it, yeah.
And back then we had rotary phones, but they'd say yeah, and I would do it, and I could pick up girls that way.
I get to keep this raven and send it back to you with his homing pigeon. Yeah. It's like somebody with a guitar that comes out. If you can play guitar and sing,
people are just
it's a
like
superpower.
Yeah, they gravitate towards you, and that feels good because for me, like we've talked about many times before, I've got that creative itch. Also, I have that attention seeking.
Yeah,
I've always been that creative person that's always wanted to be or have an audience to doing something, whether it be, I had my first camcorder when I was 14. Mm-hmm. And I remember putting it in a canister, wrapping plexiglass, so when we go surfing, I'm like holding it, praying to God that it didn't get wet.
Did you have to do the cameras where you like, okay, hold still, and you put the thing and hold the
and the
like
powder,
a nuclear bomb went off?
And the gunpowder, and then your face is all black. Yeah,
this is your one family picture for the next 100 years.
Put it out there.
Pretend like you want to be here, Grandpa. Put the pitchfork down, please. What's that show? Fool Us or whatever, Penn and Teller. You can go right on YouTube, and there's someone that did an in-depth breakdown on how every trick was done. I have no desire to do that. I know it's not actual magic. It's sleight of hand or it's blah, blah, blah. I don't want to learn how to do it. Unless I was
kind of ruins the
magic
magic for people. So like,
I want to stay, just like you watch a movie, that's a green screen behind them, but God, it looks so good.
Yeah.
I want to believe that is actually happening.
And you kind of forget that, even though we know it's CGI.
Khaleesi wasn't actually riding a dragon in Game of Thrones, but...
Once again, what?
It's... Spoiler alert. Sorry, guys.
God. Ruined it. But yeah, so here's my take on that. You can go on YouTube and you find out any trick. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. So for a good magician is to take that trick and to tweak it so it either disguises that trick, or you're so talented with your pattern and your words that the trick doesn't even matter. It's what the entertainment value that you get out of it. Like I said, okay, anyone can pick a card. Is this your card? And now there's 1,000 different versions on how to pick a card and guess what the card is. But it's all within the packaging of that.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's the magic.
Almost like when Johnny Cash covered 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah.
You suddenly forgot.
When he did Her, you're like, that's not true. Trip Reznor wrote that?
Right. And even the original artist said, okay, that's Johnny's song. He put his whole spin on it. It feels like magic. You're doing like a lot of cover songs because there's only so many different...
There's only so many variations of a trick that you can do it, or ways to perform it, or to the methods behind it. It's all within the delivery of it is key. And being witty, being smart, and having the experience of doing it 10,000 hours, you learn that over time. Okay, well, if they see something, cool. Go right into another trick.
Right.
And pretend like that was actually part of it. Now, I wanted you to see me turn those cards over or whatever. This is why. And then you go into another trick. That's where the practice comes in. That's why you don't see that many younger magicians that are like, in singing, you can have a 10-year Jackie Ivanovich that sings opera on stage. Or, Justin Bieber. Or those type people that are really naturally talented as a kid, Britney Spears, and can go on and do great things. You don't really see that much in magic. You're not going to see like a 14-year phenom on stage. Every now and then you might, but you never know on the TV show aspect, like in Penn and Teller's Fool Us. Okay, well, you had time to practice with some real pros. They probably helped you along the way, but naturally gifted, you're not going to find many of that. It takes that longevity of doing the magic of performing in front of people and getting out there and doing the due diligence.
I mean, there's some natural ability, hand-eye coordination, wittiness, things like that, like smoothness.
And I'm not saying there's not.
You can have that, but it's just like you're not going to see an 8-year-old kid playing on the PGA Tour, even though he can square the club face up a lot right now. He's got to get hundreds and thousands and millions of reps
get that power,
to where it becomes a pro.
Yeah, I heard, and also too, like I heard this saying from a magician, Jeff McBride. He said, "Don't run if they're not chasing you." So a lot of magicians will hurry up and try to do something, and don't look too hard, or don't look at my hands. It's like they don't know. They're not chasing you. They don't know what you're going to do. They know you're going to do a magic trick, but they don't know, hey, I want to put this card here and make you think that you saw that card.
Yeah.
They have no idea. You're the professional. You're the talent. You're the person that's in charge. So, and that's kind of like with that. That's probably the most helpful tip I ever got from magic, as far as don't run. No one's chasing you. Just take your time. Be patient. Go with the flow. If you get to the point where you're stuck, just do something else.
And if all else fails, just make fun of yourself. Like, oh, whatever. You just don't have to take what Van Wilder said. Don't take life too seriously. Never get out alive.
Yeah.
So you've done a ton of live shows, getting up on stage. Magic. If it's an hour show, 15 minutes might be like magic payoff. The rest is kind of setting up tricks or whatever. So you do end up doing a ton of public speaking.
Yeah.
And a couple years back, before I ever did anything with this, you were doing Toastmasters. Mm-hmm. And you kind of dominated it day one, just from a speaking perspective, but also being able to tie in your magic. So like, how have you been able to do that?
So when I became part of Toastmasters is all about presentation, awareness of your body position. Well, when you become a student of magic,
and for those that don't know, Toastmasters, it's a public speech.
Right. It is. You become like when you toast a drink or whatever. It's the same thing.
Shoot, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like you are getting into public speaking. You get in front of people and start the conversation. Start the whole event off.
And they got something at a college, and it's for people who maybe want to do better in presentations, or those that are terrified of public speaking.
Right, just to help you break the ice and stuff.
Okay.
And they would have these competitions, and I crushed it. To be flat out honest with you, there's not a time that I did not do it. And I think why I crushed it is because I became a student of the stage. Not only in magic, but I did multiple plays. I did, different musicals, all that stuff, and you learn. I read books on stage where to position yourself, the proper posturing of your body, where your sight lines are. So
and you also have been on a bunch of stages, which
so it takes that fear out.
You've been on it, and then you read in a book, you're like, don't ever stand like this, and you can think back. Yeah, they're right. Because one time I stood like that and I felt really dumb or whatever. Like it blew a trick or something. Yeah, so that
and for me, I'm more of an expression person with my body. Like I'm constantly walking back and forth on the stage. It's because for me, as a spectator looking at somebody, if I just see somebody just standing there,
hiding behind a podium,
it gets so boring to me. So I get rid of all that stuff. I get out in front. I walk. I engage, I keep eye contact with everybody and scan the audience. And in magic, when I'm doing that, setting up like we talked about, the 15 minutes really is the magic. The rest is the
or whatever
setup.
The ratio is.
But basically, that time is still prep work. I'm still like watching the audience. I'm
still performing.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm studying the crowd because I'm like, okay, that person is smiling. All right, that person laughed at my joke. That's going to be a good person. This person's like on the edge of the seat.
That chick is single, hopefully.
Yeah. Or I'll see someone that's like in the seat on their phone. I'm like, all right, well, they don't, obviously their parents brought them here. They don't give a shit.
That's interesting what you said, though, about engaging with the whole audience. Because if you think about it, like, hey, pick a card. Now show everybody your card. There's that, you gotta include everybody in on a magic trick. How have you done? I mean, I know you've done some speaking with, corporations or whatever, with a kind of a motivational slant towards it. But have you made that connection or brought the magic there? And how have you done it and not sounded gimmicky?
So when I would do like, I would take like certain magic tricks and I would kind of mold it to whatever I wanted to say or do, or I would write my whole speech out for people, and then I would, okay, well this trick would go good here, So one of my go-to tricks is called the staple gun routine. It's a Russian roulette with staple guns, and I would tie that into when you're in a business sense and you can't have the Superman mentality. You've got to be able to trust somebody. So let's do something, a thing with trust. I'm going to borrow you, sir. Come up here for a minute. And I would go through the whole Russian roulette routine with the staple guns, saying, I trust that you picked the right gun. Let's see if you're in and shoot, whatever the case would be. But if you tie that in,
you anchor the message you're trying to get across to the
right.
terror. Or
it's almost like
what could go wrong.
It's almost like it's a visual example of what you're speaking about.
Right.
Because I can sit up there all day long and go,
trust is important.
You need to trust your friend. If you can't trust one, then no one will trust you, blah, 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 whatever. Like, okay, that's boring to me. So how can I make that exciting? What can I do to make that, like I did a thing on how to read people if you're in sales. I did it for an insurance company. I'm like, you got to be able to go out there. You got to be able to watch people, their body language. You got to be able to read. Let's do something with somebody. And I did a thing called Liar Liar, where I'd have 4 people up there, and I would tell, they have 4 different color balls, and whoever has the white ball, you tell me the truth. If you don't have it, I'm gonna ask you a question. You lie to me and see if I can read you. And and it's kind of like would eliminate the people, and I would say, hey, look, I read you correctly. You have the white ball. Please give me my white ball back. So it's that stuff that you just kind of like, you're not crowbarring, you're just adding. So it's a pretty bow in the package that they have. And I was pretty successful with it. I mean, people loved it, got referrals, got people asking me back. Did insurance companies, did HR firms, I did sales meetings, I've done, shipping companies that I would go do stuff for. So, but it's all because of magic. I would have never gotten those things if I hadn't learned the confidence of getting in front of people.
You might have, but it's it's like a sweetener. Like, this guy's, he's very motivational, he knows his stuff, and he's going to be entertaining as hell. Yeah.
But I'm saying, I don't know if I would have the courage enough to get in front if I didn't have that.
Magic forced you to get on stage.
Yeah, you kind of like, it made me get out of my comfort zone.
And when you say that, though, because you said for a long time you liked the spotlight, you liked entertaining, you liked being on stage. Did it?
But that didn't really resonate until I started doing magic. I mean, I always wanted to do it, but I never really took the initiative until I started doing magic.
You hadn't found something that you felt comfortable being in the spotlight with.
Right, and then that
got you.
Kind of launched everything from doing plays to musicals to public speaking.
You had an acting coach at one point?
Yeah, I did. Linda Lavin was my acting coach. She was Alice on the show Alice in the 70s, so that's the only thing I can remember from, but she was in. But I did that just specifically so I could increase my ability to stand on stage and feel comfortable and do stuff. And, I wanted to do, I love acting. It was fun. You can be that's why I love Halloween. You can be something else. Sometimes it's good to pretend to be somebody. And I guess the older I get, I'm learning that it's okay to be a child sometimes. I often think to myself, I'm going to be 50 next month. Do I need to grow up? And hell no.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's I watched a video recently. Andrew Tate was putting. He said there's a difference between growing up and settling down.
Yeah.
Right. Growing up, yes, you grow up, you naturally have more responsibilities, that kind of stuff. But at your core, you're still that same. You still are addicted to that same excitement you get when you have somebody.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm telling a joke or saying something funny, I know it's going to kill. And that's, just in a social setting, but it's like they throw it right down the middle, and it's addicting to do that. You have influence.
Yeah, exactly. And I like I said, I've always craved that attention. I don't know if it's because I was the oldest of 5, and when you're the oldest, you kind of get lost because it's all like, oh, the baby gets all the stuff, and
you're like a player coach on the team.
Yeah, you're like
you
another parent. You're like, okay, well, go change your brother. But
you should know better.
Yeah, it's like you need to lead by example.
Right.
God, I'm 8.
You're shaving. Yeah.
But I've always loved it. I love entertaining. I love watching people either laugh at what we do or I do, or be wowed at one of the magic tricks, or get moved by something that we say on the show. Like, for me, that's like, money's great. I love money, but that also is very fulfilling to know that I've actually added value to someone's life. And whether it be my magic, or my comedy, our show, whatever the case may be, I'm adding that extra to them. Well,
you can't get to money without that.
Exactly.
You get, I always say, I'm addicted to making people say, huh. I love that. I'm addicted to that. Just like, huh. Whether it's looking at something differently, same thing with magic, it's like, huh? Like, what?
What just happened?
And then leaving him in that. You could, okay, now here's how I did it, and ruin the magic, and now it's like, oh, he is just a loser with a magic book, or, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The perception. Do you have plans of, because I've said this to you a million times, we did the show before, what's your superpower? And that's a superpower that, it's like the difference between talent and skill. Talent's something you have naturally. Skill's something you've worked on hours and hours and hours, pounding on your craft. Someone had a gun. I always play the thing. If someone had a gun to your head, say you had to make $100,000 in the next 2 months, what would you do? And then that'll alleviate all of the, I'd like to do this, It's like, okay, I have this skill set that I know I could be profitable at day one. Have you looked at taking that another step, whether it's doing live magic again, or you were really big into the public speaking,
Yeah, eventually I think what I will, funny, because I did have a conversation with Brian
Recently,
when we do, and he was kind of like, dude, you need to get back out. Get out there. He said there's a ton of work to be done, and we're eventually going to write another show.
Which was kind of him saying, hey, there's a ton of opportunity out there, and you have a ton of talent.
Yeah.
He didn't come to me and say, dude, you got to get out there and do magic.
Right. And we've been, him and I, even though we're magicians and you're supposed to be whatever, arch enemies, rivals, whatever. You get those people out there. Me and Brian have had always this relationship of hey, look, you should do this, man, or I'll give him something and say, you should try this, or he'll give me something. We have that tight bond because there's not many magicians. I think we're the only 2 magicians that are in this county that are actually working.
Right.
If you would say it's working. But I just, in that role of building a new show, I want to get back into public speaking. I want to do more, like we've talked about, charity work, getting out there, helping people in that aspect. But the channel, I love the channel.
Right.
And if I see that, because we put a lot of time, effort, a lot of money into this thing, and if there's a way for me to support the channel through that, then I'm definitely going to go that route and move it to move the channel forward, because that's the long haul for me. Is that will I incorporate magic on the channel? 100%. I mean, I've always had ideas of maybe doing like a magic show on, go YouTube Live and just have friends come in and do magic with me. But also, I want to talk about that challenge channel or show that I want to do. One of is to go out and do magic for people and see how much of money I can raise in tips, and then taking that money and just taking it to a server and say, here, you just have it, or whatever the case, give it to somebody else on the street.
Or just keep it yourself.
Or keep it myself, or give it to you.
Like ideal. I look at it, to me it makes, it's so obvious to me because, I mean, you're doing it now without trying. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But we've talked about this many times. We always undervalue what we do really well because you already do it. You have it. And you don't want something that you have. Yeah,
and I think too, part of sometimes I get a little burned out because
I'm more than just a magician.
and on top of that, it's like people will say, "Oh, Billy's a magician." Like, well, show me a trick. Like, dance, monkey, dance, which is fine. I enjoy doing it, but when I'm slam busy doing, say, if I'm behind the bar. And I'm slam busy, I just can't stop and do a magic trick for you because I have work, I have priorities that override that at that time. If I have a free time, I don't mind doing it. But people are like, oh, you got to do it now, you got to do it now. And my thoughts are, well, if you're a heart surgeon, they say, what do? You're a heart surgeon? Oh, do heart surgery right now for me.
Right.
It's like, okay, respect my time. I'm not bitter about it, but it's just also in the same aspect that, like, there's a time and a place, and if I'm at work, I can't stop what I'm doing just to show you a magic trick for free. Now, with that being said, I am in the bar industry. I deal with a lot of people. If I know someone's going to enjoy it and stay around longer and drink a little bit more,
show me your boobs. It's one of the two.
I'll look at my boss and say, look, I'm going to go over there and do a magic trick real quick,
right.
Okay? And then they know I've actually left the bar, done a magic show. So I was at Jack's working. They called me the day before to go to another restaurant, Yellowfin, which is literally two doors down. Mm-hmm. I said, do you mind if I go run and do this 30 minutes? I'll be right back. And I put something together. I had no clue I was going to do it. They called me like a day before. And I said, sure. And so he said, yeah. Went over there, did 30 minutes, made the money, came back, threw it in the tip bucket. So look, because that is what, if it's going to benefit me in the long run, that's what I'm going to do to do it. Just like for the channel, if magic will eventually benefit this channel.
Yeah, I'm thinking outside the channel. I'm thinking in terms of like the unfair advantage you have from the public speaking realm.
Yeah, and I will. That's
one of the most profitable industries you can be in when you look at actual time performing. It's like when I was in the NFL, I got paid ridiculous, and I might have punted 5 or 6 times a game. So when you did the math, you're like, what the money I'm making for actually doing what I'm making the money for, it's astronomical.
And I will. I mean, that's I do love speaking, and with everything I've gone through, failed business, failed divorce, all that.
Successful divorce.
Successful divorce. Failed marriage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But so you go through a bunch of stuff, and also you can kind of like, if there's, we said it before, like, what is it? Comedy is drama, just time separated. And so if I can put a spin on that and use magic with it.
I read something recently. It was talking about wisdom. Wisdom comes from experience, and usually bad experiences, and like what you learn from them.
Yeah.
That's where wisdom, comes from. And was it Lincoln who said, defeat doesn't make a man, it reveals him to himself, Yeah. And I've just noticed successful people, they look at quote unquote failures a different way. They're failing forward.
And I'm not saying I'm in that same realm of people, but I do look at failures, and I tell my kids, I'm like, look, embrace failing, because that's going to teach you how not to do it.
And it's also going to get you over that fear of, it's like the fear of rejection, or the fear.
Yeah, and it's and if I can incorporate that with the magic and get the message out to people, I'm going to do that, because I do love it.
I'd encourage you to do it, man. I think it's...
So if anyone wants to book, you can contact us or leave a comment down below.
Yeah, no, I could see that if once you decide, once you figure out, because you got a lot of confidence doing the magic, and maybe on the speaking side now it's a little early to like, what would I say? But I think you could quickly come up with 5 or 6 good talks tied into magic.
Oh, yeah.
And then you'd essentially be just printing money, because you get $1,500, $2,500 a speaking gig. That's, if you do one of those a week.
And that would be where I would love to go with the magic. If I was going to go to any, I'll never be in Vegas performing. One, I don't want to do. Well, one, I don't want. It's that, it's not the.
I'll never be in a relationship again.
There's a magician, Luke Germain, who was in Vegas. He's great. He's a phenomenal mentalist. But he said best and worst time is when he got a gig in Vegas and when he left the gig in Vegas. The best time was like, oh man, I got a gig in Vegas, and when the worst time was like he was in the lowest of his life, and he said he couldn't wait to leave Vegas when he was done.
Well, there's time. There's seasons.
Yeah,
it's like going on vacation. You're pumped, and by like the 5th day, you're like, I'm ready to get back to the sense of normalcy.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be neat to do a cruise ship.
Who knows? I don't get too tied to the house. I just get more tied on like a bigger vision.
Yeah.
And then seeing where it comes, But yeah, well, this has been interesting, man.
Yeah, it's been fun.
We should. I think we need to do another walk around magic. Maybe a good challenge. You teach me how to do a magic trick.
We can do that. And then you go out and perform it in front of people.
I'll do it.
Because, like I said, it's different from learning a trick. And
suddenly, all my confidence, I'm like,
out the window.
Excuse me, fine sir. Can you take your earbuds out?
So, guys, do us a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel.
Smash the like button.
And we'll see you on the next video.
Peace.